This is great. Just before you chose me, I actually thought that this would happen, so it did. Anyway,
expectation is a very powerful thing, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I just came back from a family reunion, and
you have our condolences.
Right. I went there with, with all the knowledge that I've gained in the last few years that I've been doing this work, and
there perhaps is not any event in your life that will evoke expectation from you than something like that.
Yeah.
Because you were trained into those expectations over a rather long period of time. And even though you walk away from them and develop a whole new you and a whole new life, something about going back there activates those old expectations sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah. So I'm just about to turn 65, and I'm the oldest of 27 grandchildren, so it's a very large venue. And my father is the oldest of the 9 children, and he's since passed away a few years back. And so I'm watching these people get old, and I have an Uncle Tom and a Aunt Joyce, who both have come down with, I guess it's either dementia or Alzheimer's. I don't think they're really 100% sure. But what was really interesting about it, and I don't have a specific question about it, but I just want to bring it to the table, is that they were incredibly happy. They smiled all the time. They didn't always remember who I was, and that was fine with me. Because I loved both of them right from the first time they ever set eyes on me, which was when I was a little baby, I'm sure. But the thing that really came to the foreground was how unhappy the people around them were.
Because of that? Or just in general?
Well, just in general, I think to me, I think what I saw was that they were afraid of it. They were afraid of this change in these people. And I saw this really beautiful thing going on. And I think it's because of the work I've been doing with Abraham and in other areas, just the work on myself. Well, because what you understand and what they understand are two different things. Yes.
So let us just put it in the context of what we've been talking about here. So before you came into this physical body, you were offering one vibrational frequency, and it was high and pure and non-resistant. Then when you're born and you come into the environment where people are worrying and fussing, your vibration splits a little, and it's fine because your emotions are about the vibrational relationship between who you are in your physical body and who you are in your non-physical body. So all of your emotion is about that. So you're a baby, you're born, your vibration splits, you sleep, you come together, you wake up, your vibration splits a little just because your mother's worried about you. You sleep. And as you grow older, most people get further and further and further from their vibration of non-resistance. The younger you are, the more in alignment you usually are. The older you are, the further from that you usually get, because you find more to fuss and worry about. When you croak, you close that gap. When you meditate, you close the gap, because when you stop thought, you stop resistance. And when you stop resistance, then you close the gap. So what happens with most people, as you say, they've let themselves be trained by their environment to focus upon things day in and day out that the source within them does not see. In other words, who you really are adores you. And when you get down on yourself, you cause a big vibrational gap. Who you really are knows your utter worthiness. And when you find yourself unworthy or incapable, when you find fault with yourself, you cause a gap between you and you. When you find fault with someone else, you cause a gap. Who you are loves, and when you hate, there's a gap. But physical beings, instead of being aware of this gap and selfishly wanting to feel good, so training themselves into feeling good, instead, they're out there trying to manage the things that they think are making them feel bad. So they try to control uncontrollable circumstances. When I look at that, I feel pretty good, and when I look at that, I feel pretty bad. So that needs to be more like that. So let's make a law. And then let's get people to agree, and let's get it enforced. And we say, so many people are living outside the vortex, just trying to make things fit, and they can't get it together. You can't clean it up when you're outside the vortex. And so over time, people either get feeling worse and worse and worse, or they get numb to the way they are feeling. But the more you disallow yourself from being who you've become, when you know what you don't want and you ask for something new or improved, but then you don't go, you feel worse still. And then you really know what you don't want, so you ask even harder, but when you don't go, you feel worse still. So the gap, because law of attraction is responding to both aspects of you. So what you want is becoming more, and what you don't want is becoming more. So there's more stress. You get feeling worse and worse and worse. Well, sometimes what happens is that dementia, no matter what label you want to call it, is sort of a forced withdrawal from reality, which allows you to get into the vortex. That's why they're feeling happy. When we said to our friend, chill, and then focus, this is someone who chilled. And the vortex just took them in, but they've lost their ability to focus, you see. We think Alzheimer's is a wonderful gift to humanity who has forgotten who you really are. It's sort of like a gentle allowance to reemerge back into non-physical, because there are so many people who have long ago lost their zest for physical life. The contrast is no longer serving them. They're not knowing what they don't want and knowing what they do want and then making an effort to come into alignment with it. They're just letting the gap get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, so life is becoming less and less and less fun. That's what you were describing with the other people that you were witnessing.
Right.
So what happens is, and it's fostered by their non-physical part. It is something that the non-physical aspect of them begins to focus within them. They are just called back into alignment with that broader part of who they are.
Right.
And so it's a diffusing of focus here and a infusing of focus here, you say.
My Aunt Joyce has a daughter who's, I think, in her mid-50s, and she's been diagnosed with MS. And I don't know why all these health things came up at this reunion. It never has before, but anyway. She was interesting because she was so angry about her predicament. And I don't know, I can understand why you'd be angry about that predicament, but...
Well, we'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because here's her vortex over here. So when she finds herself not feeling good, when she finds herself losing some of her abilities, then her desire is getting stronger and stronger. And so as she stands there in that place of increasing disconnection, she's asking more and more and more. And as she's asking more and more, this vortex is calling her in a stronger and stronger way. And when you're in despair, when you're feeling powerless, and the vortex is calling you, even though you can't consciously hear it, in other words, the emotional scale is despair or disempowerment and fear down there at the furthest end. And then anger or revenge, anger, is a step closer to the vortex. And then frustration and overwhelmment is a step closer to the vortex. So her vortex is calling her. We would far rather see her in anger than in fear or despair. It's really a step in the right direction. But what happens with most people, because they've been trained that anger is inappropriate, because people don't like angry people to be around them. They'd rather you're depressed. You're less trouble when you're depressed.
Right.
When you are angry, you're on the way. And if we were counseling her, we'd say, good for you. You're taking some of your power back. When you feel angry, at least you're focusing, and at least you're making your claim to what you do want. And if she could just get into the vicinity of hope, the vortex would take her in and she would recover. But the medical community wants to say, oh, there are some things to which there is no recovery. And we say, there is nothing to which there is no recovery. But if you convince people of that, then they'll be over there in despair, and then for sure there's no recovery, because recovery is in the vortex. You got to give them hope, or they don't have a prayer of recovery, you see.
Yeah.
So when you give someone the death sentence or diagnosis of something, when you say this is a degenerative disease and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, it puts her in despair. She moves into anger, and then people say, oh, you shouldn't be angry. It's not godly to be angry. It's not good for you to be angry. So she moves back to despair. Despair, anger, despair, anger, despair, anger, despair, anger, despair, anger. We'd like her to go despair, anger, a little less anger, frustration, overwhelmment, hopefulness, belief. And then she's back on her feet.
Right.
Really, we're not kidding you. Everything that anyone lives is nothing more than an indication of vibration. But you see, here's the thing we've been telling doctors and scientists for a while. If you will, instead of looking for cures, which is like a Band-Aid, if you would stop looking for cures and start looking for vibrational causes, when someone has a vibrational indicator, like a diagnosis, whether you call it Alzheimer's or MS or whatever you call it, how the person feels while they've got that, now that it's a manifestation, is how they were feeling before they got that. That's just an exclamation point on how they've been feeling.
Right.
Every single time. No exceptions, you see. So you are the creator of your own reality. Your emotions indicate whether you are in sync with who you really are or not. And if you've got negative emotion and you don't recognize that it is guidance calling you toward better feeling thoughts, so you don't look for better feeling thoughts, don't worry, it will get bigger. And if you still don't do something to clean it up, don't worry, it will get bigger. It will get bigger because law of attraction is responding to the vibration of you. And so here it is. If the vibration of you is two opposing points and each of them are getting bigger, what's the result for you? More stress on your vibrational experience and more stress on your physical apparatus. All illness, every illness, no exception, is that. Every single time, you see.
Yeah.
We were talking about expectation earlier. Once something is manifested and you're observing it, it's hard not to notice it.
Yeah.
And most people offer almost all of their vibration in response to what they are observing. So when you have a physical condition, it gets your attention because you take your body almost everywhere you go. So as you're observing how you feel in your body, how you feel, then your expectation just sort of gets into that rut, that expectation. But the thing that is so interesting is every time that happens, you expand more. You just can't hurt a little without expanding. Do you know that this vortex of creation, this vibrational escrow of someone like your cousin, is healthier than almost anyone you know? Because in her despair and in her feeling of victimhood, in her deep resentment, she keeps launching these rockets of what she really wants, but then holding herself in opposition to them. So if we were visiting with her, we would not listen to her stories of victim. We would say, you got to cut that out. And she would not like it. And she would say, well, this is just what's happening with me. And we would say, but it doesn't have to happen that way. You could tell a different story. And she would say, well, telling a different story is sort of a metaphysical, airy-fairy, Pollyanna, ridiculous thing to do. Because here I am living this experience. And I don't see what power saying it different than it is would bring. And we would say, saying it different than it is would focus you in the direction of what you want. And if you could consistently focus yourself in the direction of what you want instead of in the direction of what you don't want, you would begin to offer a consistent, different vibration.
Right.
And when you offer a different vibration, your vibrational indicators, which is your physical condition or whatever you're living, would change. It is certain. It is certain. Every situation can be resolved. Every problem can find a solution. But here's the big thing that you'd have to get across. The vibration of a problem and the vibration of a solution are very different vibrations. The vibration of a question and the vibration of an answer are very different vibrations. So if you're beating the drum of the problem, you cannot find the solution. You have to beat the drum of the solution. And many people would say, well, why would I do that when this is what I'm living? And we say, well, for one thing, you'd feel better. For another thing, you'd feel better. For another thing, you'd feel better. For another thing, you'd feel better. In other words, a woman was hurting from arthritis, and she said, how can I think positive thoughts when I'm in pain? And we said, you can have pain and have hope, or you can have pain and have despair or fear. And the vibrational difference between hope and despair is the difference between recovery or not, you see. But a lot of people that have practiced themselves into a vibration can't hear that. They are sort of in a rut.